Everybody, I think I've met most of you before. I see a couple maybe new faces. My name is Ken Galika. I'm the planning manager with the City of Buckeye in the Development Services Department. We are leading a multi-departmental effort to rejuvenate and revitalize the Buckeye downtown. That's something that has been a priority for our City Council, for our business owners and residents down here. They've wanted to see growth and progress, have more opportunities to shop and dine besides what they've had traditionally. So that's kind of the gist of why we're here today. Over 2022 and 2023, the city planning, development, and other departments worked on the downtown specific area plan at the request of our mayor and city council. That document was established to guide the land uses, what types of businesses we want to see downtown, what do we want things to look like in terms of architectural design, landscaping, public infrastructure and transportation projects, in terms of street improvements, making them more pedestrian friendly, economic development strategies, how do we attract business downtown in an area that historically hasn't seen a lot of brand new business attraction, branding, what do we call the area, and a lot more. The plan does include various levels of implementation steps, and by implementation, these are very specific strategies, not even strategies, they're very specific steps that the city is to undertake in the short term, 1 to 3 years, midterm, 4 to 7 years, and the long term, which is 8 years and out, to really implement that community vision. I'd be remiss without pointing out that the DSAP, which is what we call this, process involved over 1,000 participants from the community that involved everything from area residents, business owners, students at Buckeye Union High School, our youth council that the city has, as well as professionals and residents from throughout the city. So just a few examples of implementation items. There are 29 total in the plan, but just a few. Develop a branding plan. That's something we'll start working on here in the next year or so, I would imagine. Create a public art program for the downtown, make the area look nicer, soften it up a little bit. Actively prepare for future downtown parking needs. That could mean acquiring some vacant properties and turning them into additional surface parking lots in the nearer term, and then in the long term, maybe building some parking structures. And then designing and constructing the recommended roadway, streetscape, and gateway improvements. And that's kind of where we've started in the implementation. We've kind of decided to attack that Monroe Avenue improvement project first because it's such a visible and main kind of concept that goes a long way to supporting those other goals. Just to give you an idea of what Monroe will look like 5 to 7 years from now, it is planned as a 1-lane in each direction roadway with parking, parallel parking on the side with wider sidewalks and permanent landscaping in beds. This was discussed by those 1,000 people that participated in the process. This was the vision of the community, and I'll tell you why. It certainly wasn't to move traffic faster. That's not the goal on Monroe. We want to slow traffic down. That was one of the primary benefits of doing something like this. The second benefit is it makes the area much safer for pedestrians because the travel speeds are significantly reduced. It also makes the area look nicer. You have more places for landscaping. In the past, if you look at a photo of Monroe from a year ago before it was narrowed down, it was a very wide street, very cold, didn't have much green space. In the future, we do anticipate it looking much more attractive. Stage 1 was the restriping. That was simply resurfacing the street and painting the lanes. That is largely complete. There are some adjustments to driveways at businesses where we did the hatching pattern that do need some adjustments, and that will be completed over a short period of time in January and February of next year. There won't be any traffic restrictions during those improvements, and we'll make sure that there's minimal impact to any of the businesses operating. In response to resident comments that we've received through this process, we've heard that there's a need for a safer pedestrian crossing at 9th Street and Monroe. As a result of that, the city looked into that. We studied the traffic, how many pedestrians were crossing at what times. And the results of that study supported the city providing a hawk traffic signal at that intersection. If you're not familiar with the hawk, it's a pedestrian signal only. It's activated by push button, so if you want to cross the street from one side of Monroe to the other, a pedestrian would hit the button. The signal, like you see in the image here, would start flashing for a few seconds and then turn solid red to give the pedestrian enough time to get across the street. Traffic would be stopped. It would not activate unless a pedestrian was in that intersection. And that is anticipated to be installed in January or February. Stage 2, after we finish the striping, was to try to give the community a better sense of what the street could look like. So before we actually spent a significant amount of money to buy landscaping and seating for the entire Monroe Avenue corridor from 1st to 9th. So we did what we call a demonstration project, which is outside of City Hall here and also on the south side of the block. We've installed 10 box trees, which are on some raised pedestals. Those are framed and wrapped, as well as 24 planter boxes that contain shrubbery and accent plants. We've also installed a Parklet platform. This was just a pre-manufactured platform, which sits outside of City Hall. It basically extends the sidewalk, has a couple picnic tables with umbrellas on it. It's a good place for area residents or employees to go out and have their lunch, and just showing businesses what they will be able to do in that expanded Parklet zone. Since we narrowed the street, we have more room, and that was the intent, is to do things like this. Improvements to the chicanes, the kind of bump outs, will be completed in the upcoming months. We'll be refreshing the plantings in those areas. And really, what was the purpose of this? It was to give the community a sense of what the overall improvements could look like. This is small text, so I apologize for that. Stage 3, which is why we're here tonight primarily, is the interim landscape stage. This is when we basically take the demonstration project and stretch it out from 1st Avenue, Miller Road to 9th. Provide that landscaping and those beautification opportunities across that whole stretch. To do that, we have worked with Jason Harrington here of Harrington Planning and Design. He has provided us with 3 concepts, 3 different themes: a heritage theme, a contemporary theme, and a modern theme. And each of these have different plants that would be provided, different planters, pots for the trees and for the shrubs, different barrier types, fencing types that would separate the enhanced pedestrian environment from the traffic as well. So he will be going through those here just a bit. At the conclusion of tonight's meeting, we'll do that dotting exercise. So you can go around. I like this tree. I like this bench. I like this this fence, and we'll get your feedback. This is by no means the extent of products that are available. So if you have something in mind that you saw in a magazine or that you saw in a different city when you went to their downtown that you think would be great down here for seating or for potted plants or whatnot, please give us that feedback. We have some comment cards in the back of the room, so we'll take any written feedback that you want to give us in addition to what we're calling the dotting exercise. That final selection, whatever we end up actually ordering and placing out in the street, that really likely will be a hybrid of the themes that you're seeing here. Maybe a little bit from this one, a little bit from that one. The last thing I wanted to point out here before I turn it over to Jason, Parklet platforms, the different concepts show them widely throughout the area. It's not the city's intent that we're going to be providing those. The businesses will have the opportunity to provide their own Parklet platforms if they want to. We will provide them with design guidance. So just look past the fact that they're showing those everywhere. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Ken. Welcome everyone. Thank you. We have three alternatives currently displayed up here. One of them is called Heritage. So all three ideas have a common theme to them, independent. One is modern, one is heritage, one is contemporary. By all means, when you do investigate and look at the materials, if there's a combination of things, like I like this on heritage, but I like this better on modern or contemporary and heritage, feel free to give us some input on what your combinations might include. If you're satisfied with the holistic look of one preferred alternative or the other, please let us know so that we can take that to the next level at our next task that we'll be developing as well. So in the screen above, this is one of our 3D presentation images, graphics. Each alternative you'll see has a bird's eye view and a pedestrian scale or a vehicle scale pedestrian view. There's a mini key map present that'll show you where each of the views are taken so you can get your orientation. All three concepts investigate the same block from 4th to 5th so you can compare and contrast your preferences. A lot of them are being built around, as Ken had mentioned, the specific area plan guidance. So we're following what has been established already and approved. A lot of it is based upon existing spatial conditions. So we have some restrictions about turning movements, lighting, parking space allocations. And so we're building around some of those conditions that Ken had noted that will be part of that stage 1 and stage 2 as we're working through stage 3. As I'd mentioned, in addition to the visual imagery of the perspectives, we have some character ideas for creating those themes to help build this heritage theme that we're talking about as one alternative. These are not exactly the presentations, they're more of inspirational images. So if we want to look at a separation material like a ranch fencing, whether it's vinyl or wood, some of those details will be sorted out a little bit later. It's not literal, it's more ideas that we're going to take to the next level to see what you like. Likewise on a horse planter, using it as a planting bed, not just as a trough itself. Some of the themes that we looked at with the heritage were built around a lot of the history and the agriculture, a lot of the past, and embracing some of those character ideas that are present in the city of Buckeye. Hay bales being one of them, but not a literal hay bale, a concrete that's been precast, pre-made, very durable, but looks like it in terms of identity. String lights, we've heard a lot of positive response on having some lower voltage, lower wattage string lights for more entertainment value and enhancing the safety of the corridors themselves. Different types of seating areas in the parklets that Ken had mentioned, whether they be bench seating or chair seating. In the heritage concept, we were looking at more of a family-friendly type picnic table environment. Concrete ottomans can be used as seating elements or as a staging area to place things on displays. Art was one of the things that Ken had mentioned. We're not going to really use real tractor tires. We would take an artist and work with them to develop concrete versions so that we could have more thematically based planters, not necessarily exclusively the horse trough, but maybe a combination of things. Seating as well, looking at vendors who offer similar character ideas that we want to embrace around for this heritage theme. Things that look like logs that can be turned up end is possibly a seating area. Other materials for, say, a heritage theme would be a certain type of character plants, things that maybe tell a story about the history. So not literal crops that would grow, but maybe materials that look like historical crops in the area. Colorful plants are another thing that we're trying to adopt so that your downtown corridor space has a very unique identity, that when things are in bloom, you can celebrate those blooms. Bluebells, blue elf, a lot of these plants are very small and compact so that they fit into those previous planters. We don't want things that would normally grow in a regular landscape that becomes a high maintenance burden or a high water use burden. So we're looking about the sensitivity of which plants offer a combination of safety, vibrancy, low water use, low maintenance, things like that. Likewise with the trees, looking at character trees that are, again, good fits for a shady environment. Things that encourage people to use the downtown space. Come down for a special event, come down for a First Friday, come down for a farmer's market or a food truck court. So a lot of the trees that we pick are those drought tolerant, seasonal interest trees, very durable trees that are proven in our Arizona climate. A contemporary theme is more of a modern, more of a base of today, what's going on in today's world, being on par with, say, a downtown Gilbert, a downtown Peoria, a downtown Tempe is some of the local precedents looking to build around that. So a lot of the materials that we're pairing up with these type of contemporary themes have those. So they're not descript, they're not more, say, a rusted metal or a very polished material. They're more of that intermediate type character. Very similar layouts in the presence because of what the existing conditions offer. These benches are more like a park-like setting, so they're more metal benches, more off-the-shelf items that can be customized and worked into them. Some of the boards that you see on the screen have some minor adjustments, so when you do mingle around and look at the boards, you're going to notice a few details of some differences, like less of a vibrant color, more of a uniform color for the metal stuff, like the benches and picnic tables and things like that. In this particular area with the contemporary theme, we're looking at more of bar seating. So maybe there's a high top table or something that's a little bit more elevated. The planters themselves are more accustomed to what you'd find in today's atmosphere with maybe a patina or a Corten steel, things that have a little bit of a weathering to them. Cabling would be a different type, but in terms of cabling, we know that they have some maintenance issues. So maybe instead of cable, we would use rebar or some other type of construction material to make it a little more durable and easier to maintain. Likewise, on the modular decking for the parklets, we don't necessarily want the checkerboard or chessboard look, but this is just an image that represents what could be in terms of an elevated platform that is easy to navigate for accessibility, a smooth transition from a sidewalk environment to an extension into the parklet environment. Likewise, plant material choices. This theme, if you like a few things from the other theme or a few things from this thing, we can find combinations of plant materials that work best in terms of a recommended or preferred plant palette. It's not exclusive that if you like the contemporary theme, you have to go 100% with this plant material. But these are ideas, again, that are a little bit different so that we don't have all of the same plants in a corridor, that we're looking at adopting a key plant palette that as we deploy the Monroe Street corridor, there's a recipe that we can repeat as we go through the different phases. Likewise, on the trees, you're going to see a lot of the same trees that might be replicated in different combinations. So if you're not a fan of the elm or not a fan of a red push pistache, we can look at going back to an oak tree. It's just giving you alternatives to think about in terms of your combinations. Some of your downtown space has overhead power present, so whether we underground them or not, with an overhead power, you have to be sensitive to having a shorter tree. So we want to make sure that we have a few choices, that it's not exclusively one tree throughout the whole corridor, because you'll have different conditions throughout the corridor. Likewise, our last theme is the modern theme, something a little more futuristic, forward-thinking, next-generation ideas. Again, you've seen a lot of the theming in the 2D models and the 3D models. That's based upon the curb-to-curb conditions. That's based upon the phase one lane reduction and the paint striping. So we're creating these pocket spaces to fill. And how we fill them is what you're looking at today, whether we choose one of the three options, identify a fourth option, or hybridize them and take a little bit of each idea to make a preferred idea. In the modern theme, again, a lot of these are more sleek. A lot of them are more next generation ideas. You see a lot more artistic, a lot of metals that are powder coated, a lot of shapes and forms that are very lean, very customized. Likewise with the planters, maybe they're fiberglass or precast concrete, but more shapes that are durable. They're going to be in a roadway environment and hopefully in a high traffic corridor with a lot of population migrating. And so we want to make sure we pick materials that are not only affordable, but durable. String lights as well, having that ambiance of a space that it's not just a daytime activity, it's nighttime as well. Looking at furniture that has some mobility to it, something that is, again, sleek and custom to fit this modern theme, or a combination of some of them from the previous two themes. The pedlets and parklets, again, there's different choices. We're not restricted to just the one idea. And as Ken mentioned, basically the pedlets and parklets are going to be only in front of city-owned property as a first deployment, and then the business owners will have their own opportunity to deploy through this guideline that Ken had mentioned, their own version of that. So they're not restricted to only using picnic tables or benches or bike racks or whatever. This toolkit will have some choices so that each individual business owner can customize it to their particular needs and their frontage areas. plant material as well, just different groupings of plants. We're not exclusive to 100% of the modern theme, 100% of the heritage theme. You have the ability to give us some input of what some of your preferences are. Hey, I don't really like that plant. I got that in my yard. Here's some things I have concerns with. Or I really like that plant. I've seen that. That's super durable. It's going to be very low maintenance, very low water use. It's got some seasonal interest. Give us some kudos as well as some of your lesser positive opinions as well. With that, I'll turn it back to Ken.
Yep. And Jason mentioned, and I mentioned previously, these parklet spaces. And for those of you who haven't been involved in this process, well, what is a parklet? So you have, as you've likely seen out in front of, well, actually all along Monroe now, there's a gray painted zone that sits below the curb, but before the parking spaces start. What is the plan for that zone? Is it just space that doesn't get used? No. That zone is intended to be used by adjacent businesses to extend their business into the outdoors. So if you're a restaurant, you can have something like this photo here. You have a parklet platform where you can extend your restaurant service out. People can sit outside next to the parade or the street or whatever's going on that day, eat and enjoy the opportunity to people watch. If you're a retail store, you could use it in the same type of way. Use it for sidewalk sale, display of your merchandise. If you're a tax attorney, you typically wouldn't think you need something like this, but even them, maybe they want a space for their employees to just be able to sit outside and have their lunch. So these are spaces, basically businesses get to take advantage of what is city-owned right-of-way and expand their business in a zone that they won't pay taxes on. So it's a win-win. We are working currently on the creation of a parklet policy. We have a draft internally created, circulating amongst various different departments to make sure we're thinking of everything we need to from a safety standpoint, from a design standpoint. But we will be creating that policy and circulating it out to anybody who's interested, business owners or residents, if they want to take a look and provide feedback, probably sometime in December. So if you signed in tonight and you left your email address, we'll share that with you. It'll also be on the project website. Many of you have likely visited the city website and seen the page for all of these improvements. What will that policy entail? It'll talk about locational requirements. Where can I locate a parklet? Can it extend beyond the limits of my business? Those types of questions. How big can my parklet be? Are there colors, material restrictions? Do I need to do anything from a permit standpoint? That policy will get into all of that, as well as your more ADA type of federal requirements. How do I have to make sure that this parklet is going to be legal from an access standpoint, be able to be accessible to wheelchairs or folks that might not be able to get around as easily. The last thing I want to do just before we start the public comment portion of the meeting is to acknowledge that we understand that a segment of the population downtown hates this project. We get that. It's something we've heard from a certain segment of the residents that we've talked to. I do want to point out that might be what you see on social media, but we've heard a lot of positives from other residents and business owners as well. So if you are in opposition to the project entirely, we understand. We're certainly not here to invalidate your opinions. You are free to have them, but I just wanted to point out just one last time that is the result of a very long public process, and there's a lot of feedback into that, and this vision does reflect the greater vision of the community. So with that, I do want to ask that you come up and see the materials here and talk to staff, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.